happened to your head?
Oh, don't worry. I think it's reversible.
Why don't people talk about Spy Kids anymore? This film was massive when it came out. All of them were massive. I distinctly remember seeing them at the cinema. Granted, I remember nothing else about them, but I saw them and they were massive, and then it's like the whole world forgot they existed. I mean, maybe that's just here in the UK, but I have not heard a single thing about any of these movies anywhere since I was about 6 years old, until I happened to come across this DVD in a charity shop, and it turns out there's a reason for this collective amnesia. People generally don't like these films, people don't like Spy Kids and would rather forget it. But I sat down with Kirsty to watch it last night, and it's the most baffling film I have ever watched. It's an absolute fever dream. I felt as though I was permanently reeling at what was happening. Spy Kids is single-handedly a terrible movie and a brilliant movie, and not even ironically brilliant, just actually brilliant, whilst all of that coexists alongside so many issues here. I fully understand why people might not like Spy Kids, but I think they're wrong, and I will happily die on that hill. Why? How can I possibly take that stance? Well, let's get into it. We're going to start with the issues, so it doesn't seem like I'm blind or deluded. There are a lot of issues, and some of them are just kind of the basic ordinary things before we even get to all of the madness this movie has. Basic things like dialogue just being quite exposition heavy at worst and very straightforward at best. For example, part of the emotional heart of this film starts with Carmen and Junie thinking their parents are lame and boring. The way a lot of the child audience will feel about their own parents, lame and boring, but we aren't given much space to express this idea in the movie beyond a kind of abrupt scene where, dropping the kids off for school, the father Gregorio drifts into a fantasy of throwing this bully's dad through a window and all of the kids celebrating him before, in reality, he realizes he can't do any of that, and his kids then look slightly disappointed. This is the only daydream moment from the film. It happens so abruptly. Apart from that, we just get this moment where they're told later on that their parents are indeed secret spies, and Carmen responds,
"My parents can't be spies, they're not cool enough."
Which, as much as I kind of love how cheesy that line is, it's iconic. It's also a perfect summary of condensing what should be an interesting emotion for the characters, what should be a kind of pivotal beat in the story, and we could be giving a lot more space to that feeling, instead just being explained to us in a single quick line of dialogue before we move on. My parents can't be spies, they're not cool enough. Or what happens when Junie has to fly this jet despite being a child and never having flown anything in his life? Of course they start to crash. That could be quite natural, two kids feeling out of their depth and bickering as a result of it, as a result of trying new things they aren't familiar with. But instead of that, to very quickly explain why they're crashing, Carmen says,
"We're supposed to read all the instructions! You skipped a chapter, meathead!"
You skipped a chapter of the instruction manual. Rightio. Look, we can't be too critical of children's line delivery, but I think we can criticise the lines they're given to say, and indeed, most of the characters are given to say in this film. Everything is just a little bit clunky. The one real character trait we have for the son Junie is that he's easily frightened. We learn this at the start of the movie when he's putting ointment over the warts he gets on his hands from always having sweaty palms due to being scared, which is a lot to take in, and then it doesn't really come up again until at a great distance he meets Mr. Floop, who says,
"You there. What's that on your hands?" "Warts. From sweaty hands sprout warts. Do you know why you have sweaty hands?"
From being scared all the time.
This is, of course, his character arc, Junie becoming less afraid, but it's an odd way to do that via warts on a sweaty palm, and also an incredibly ham-fisted way to draw attention to it in this scene. Most of the dialogue is exactly like that, quick, ham-fisted lines to direct us overtly to what the point of the scene is. And then another kind of just basic problem that pervades this film is the way a lot of scenes are structured just feels incoherent. Well, no, not totally incoherent. They do make sense. You can understand and follow what's going on and why, but it's always just the tiniest bit off, which is somehow even more baffling than if it made no sense at all. Like, they need help from their uncle Machete. Yes, Machete played by Danny Trejo. They need his help to rescue their parents. Time is of the essence, however, so Machete tells them the only thing that will get them to their parents fast enough is this special jet he has that's like super quick. However, he refuses to fly it there because of his fractured relationship with his dad. So time is of the essence. Machete is refusing to help. Their parents are in grave danger and Carmen is frustrated he won't help. But then we just abruptly cut to them having dinner together? Okay, I thought time was of the essence.
Then how about for us? Your niece and nephew.
No.
Carmen in that scene and the following one is still trying to persuade Machete, but she's incredibly calm here. All of her frustration and urgency has gone. There's no hint she might be working on a deeper plan at the moment, and then the scene ends without any of that even being the focus.
Pass the pig intestine.
Oh, I'm not eating that now. Nope.
You know, it sounds minor when you explain it. It sounds like nitpicking. This is just slightly incoherent in a way that slightly bamboozles you. But when the structure of pretty much every scene feels like this in the film, it all does add up. The way the film opens with Carmen desperate for her mother Ingrid to tell them her favourite story. Ingrid tells her this story all the time, but then Carmen is surprised and disappointed by the ending to the story she knows very well.
No happily ever after. Great story, Mom, but it needs a new ending.
Or the film makes a huge deal out of the fact Gregorio is hiding some secret mission from his wife Ingrid, complete with close-ups of an overly shifty expression from Gregorio. And then the next scene he just randomly decides to tell her all about it.
Donegan?
Yeah, he's missing.
Is this what you were hiding from me last night?
I didn't want to worry you.
If everything was totally incomprehensible, you would just write this all off as bad and weird, but because it's mostly makes sense and there's always just the tiniest bit off, that's the sweet spot that makes it feel like a fever dream, where it almost makes sense but not quite. For some reason my DVD has this extreme orange filter for the first 30 minutes as well, and Spy Kids is such a movie that I honestly cannot tell if that's the DVD messing up or if this was a deliberate artistic choice. Enough discussing the basics though, let's get to the madness.
Your name?
Carmen Cortez?
Your full name, please.
I don't use my full name, it's too long.
Your full name, please.
Carmen Elizabeth Juanita Ecoscapa.
World Anvil!
Cortez.
World Anvil! Yep, they are sponsoring this video. World Anvil is an online tool for game masters, for writers, for tabletop RPG players and world builders. An online tool for designing worlds, creating characters, chronicling history, planning and managing campaigns from a plethora of different games. My best friend uses it for our D&D campaign, I use it for planning my novel. Far better and easier than the scraps of random A4 paper stuffed into a drawer that used to constitute my creative process. Not only can I keep everything in one place where I can easily edit anything I want to, but I can create timelines, hyperlinks branching off to specific characters or articles, family trees, a billion other things. You can even link them all to maps, like here's this basic map I made years ago. If I click on the character Tess, it sends me straight to her page where everything is redacted, and that's like the most basic thing you can do with your maps. There's other creators whose world building looks so much nicer than mine. There's a whole community network on World Anvil if that's your thing. There's so many different cool features for everything you may possibly need. In general, there's been lots of great updates recently, making the interface even simpler and smoother than it already was. World Anvil is great. I am genuinely passionate. I hope you can hear that. And if you desire, if you crave, if you call to the heavens for a 51% discount, then use the code TREE, or click the link in the description or the pinned comment. And if you just want to try out the free version, then go for it. There's no time limit. Test it out for as long as you want. World Anvil. So, okay, as we learn at the beginning of this movie via Gregorio ranting about his son, Junie is obsessed with a weird children's TV show. A TV show comprised of Mr. Floop and what are called his fooglies, these monstrosities that are genuinely quite creepy. Whoever the hell designed them was on board with the whole fever dream premise of this movie. They're haunting. But Gregorio happens to notice one of them looks like this secret spy he's been tasked with finding. Gregorio handily keeps a photo in his pocket of the person he's supposed to find, and I don't know how he spots a similarity at a quick glance, but he does, and we soon discover all of these Fugleys are once brilliant spies that were captured, and one of Floop's brilliant invention somehow turns them into this, but apparently a side effect is that it turns their brains to mush in the process. So now he just keeps them as prisoners and forces them into his children's TV show. Except we later learn their minds aren't mush. It is totally reversible, and also they can still speak perfectly fine. It's just in a squeakier, faster pitch, and everything is backwards.
Cute little tuneless song the characters sing. Play it backwards.
We're trapped! Floop is a madman, help us, save us! Floop is a madman, help us, save us!
You know, all I'm doing right now is just explaining plot points, but it feels like they speak for themselves, I think. I have no idea why Ryan George has never done a pitch meeting on Spy Kids, because it's all already there for him. Secret spies who are somehow turned into this and put into a kids show for some reason that Junie happens to be obsessed with, and even draws his own Fugly.
Look at this. It's hideous.
The thing is, Mr. Floop isn't actually that interested in capturing spies and being an evil villain, which is an odd thing to say about someone who appears to do it so effortlessly. All he cares about is his TV show, and he just happens to be building an evil army for the villain Mr. Lisp, because that seems to be the only way he can get funding for his children's TV show. I don't know, for all of Netflix's faults, I at least don't think they expect that of their creators. Mr. Floop does have an army of fum-fums, but the main work, thanks to his minion here, is the Spy Kids. Yes, these aren't the Spy Kids, the robot children are the Spy Kids.
Sometimes, in order to think big, you have to think small.
All they're missing is one component, an artificial brain which will allow them to talk like human beings, rather than this.
They're not quite finished.
And the reason the villains have been capturing all of these spies is because many of them had previously worked on the invention called the Third Brain, one that was decided to be so powerful that they were then ordered to destroy it, but Mr. Floop and Minion think it still exists, and then they find it. And yes, Mr. Floop never wanted this army to actually succeed. He's interested in his children's show, but Minion wants it to succeed. And when they find the Third Brain, Minion takes over and he locks Mr. Floop away in the virtual room. The reveal of Minion as the real villain is the greatest twist in cinema history.
Minion?
I assure you it's Mr. Minion now.
He's not a minion, it's just his surname happens to be Minion. That makes me laugh even now. That's a genuinely great joke, complete with removing the glasses like he's removing some elaborate disguise. In perhaps the clearest example of what should be a big plot beat, bafflingly just being told to us as a single clunky line of dialogue. We have the moment at the end of this film where the now intelligent army of child robots are defeated when Mr. Floop hacks into them and reprograms their brains. They're such complicated robots though that you can't do that very easily until Mr. Floop has the brainwave about how to reprogram them. Rather than murdering our main characters, they're suddenly reprogrammed and they run past them and just start chucking the villains into the air and cheering. And the only explanation we get for this is a line of dialogue Minion shouts very quickly over the noise.
Have minds of their own now, sir. Anything we tell them goes in one ear and out the other.
Did you clock that? Their minds are their own now. Anything we tell them goes in one ear and out the other. The only way to stop these Spy Kids is to turn them into real kids, who then just refuse all instructions. I think that's a pretty fun idea. But this single line of dialogue is not enough to either explain it, or for it to feel impactful when this is the climax of the entire movie. And then despite these children and the villains having nowhere to go here, that at the end of the room in front of a window, all of those characters seemingly just disappear and the noise dies away. Suddenly they're not there anymore as the main characters get to have a quiet heart-to-heart in this room. It's a shame because I actually think that plot point is a clever idea. Creating robot children is indeed ludicrous, but within the context of a children's movie it makes sense. These Spy Kids are underestimated because they just appear to be children. Adults are forever underestimating children. That's a good theme for a children's film, and say one of these Spy Kids looks like the president's daughter, it's obvious how they could could be useful in a world of cartoonish spies, and then freeing the robots from a robotic existence by programming them to disobey commands, and that this is what makes them like true children. That's fun. Kids love this kind of idea. Kids love themes of rebelling against parents and teachers. It could be very cheesy, but it's a really, really cool idea. Which is where this video flips, because the film is packed with great ideas. The thing about Spy Kids is that you can visibly see how much fun everybody was having. As incoherent and first drafty as a lot of the script feels, there was a really clear vision here, and you can tell everybody bought into it 100%. The vision being to make something completely mad and deliberately dumb and cheesy in a fun way. And I think if you can buy into that vision when watching this film, it's an absolute blast. I do love the idea of spies who go about carrying large printed pictures of the people they're spying on. So much so that the backstory of their parents, two spies who were once tasked to spy on each other, how they meet is just pulling the photos from each other's pockets they're carrying. That's so dumb. I love it. I love Minion's reveal as Mr. Minion. I love how him taking off the glasses changes his appearance as much as it does for Carmen and Junie as well. They hide in a clothes shop and then emerge with new clothes in a way that's meant to look badass. No, they're not afraid they'll be seen if they walk back out onto the very public street where the baddies were just a minute ago, because they're now wearing sunglasses. They're perfectly disguised. My absolute favourite is how constantly people are ripping off the most pointless thin moustaches as their disguises. Gregorio's daydream is so out of the blue, and I love it for that. Floop almost getting in trouble with Mr. Lisp because instead of finishing his actual work, he's too busy ruminating like a tortured artist on what it is his kids' show is missing. In general, how much Alan Cummings feels like a twisted version of Willy Wonka is probably the best thing in this film. The windows of his castle are stained glass jigsaw pieces. He has this trick floor and trick doors and his weird virtual room. Mutating captured spies into fooglies is an insane idea, the kind of thing no film in its right mind would go with, unless it wanted to feel childlike. They're horrifying. They're potentially scary for a child to see, yes, but the idea behind them feels like the exact thing a kid would come up with in like a play therapy session I've been part of. And that's its genius. This film feels like it was dreamt up by an actual child. It's what I love so much about the Lego Movie, about Dogman, and about Spy Kids. Because like, what is a child's vision of a spy? It's literally this. Parents who secretly go into their bedroom and then they press a few buttons on their makeup or whatever, and their mirrors turn into computer screens showing spy stuff. What stuff? I don't know, just generic numbers and analytics and stuff that looks like it means something. You know, the kind of stuff a kid imagines a spy would have. And Ingrid has a button she can press that moves her chair backwards along this totally pointless track in the floor so she can speak to Gregorio. And the side view mirrors they have in their car can zoom in case they need to zoom in on people they're spying on. I don't know if this was just Robert Rodriguez or if it was a team of people, but the day they sat around figuring out all the stupidly fun childlike spy stuff they can cram into this movie must have been the most fun they'd had in years. Electroshock chewing gum, acid crayons that burn through metal, laser wedding rings, fum-fums, small packets you put in the microwave that turn into product placements. I'm going to share with you my 3 favourite jokes in this movie because I think they sum it up. At the end of this film, they get a call from this other spy person about a new mission, George Clooney, who has this black bar over his face to hide his identity. And then in the middle of the conversation, he just casually pulls the black bar off like it's a pair of glasses and then puts them on again a moment later. I love that they trick Minion into entering this room and he doesn't see where any of them are, and then they all just slowly float up from the floor for no reason.
Spoken for.
There you are. Didn't see you.
And I love Mr. Floop's computer telling them how much time they have left to stop Minion's plan.
Can you shut them down from here?
It's too late.
You know, I just miss when kids' movies were more readily allowed to be this stupid. And when the actors are hamming everything up and making their expressions as goofy and cartoonish as possible for the child audience. Does anyone believe a supposedly master spy would be this obvious when stealing an artificial brain he was tasked with destroying? No, but I don't care. There are 2 types of stupidity in stories, you know? One where it's just a badly written story with all sorts of dumb flaws, and the other part where it's deliberately reveling in its own ridiculousness because that's the fun and that's the heart. When did the world get so cynical about that second kind of stupidity? I think there's something really sincere and authentic about it and passionate. And you do still get kids' films like that. Dogman being the most recent example I can think of, but it feels rare now. Spy Kids is flawed. It doesn't balance its stupidity well enough alongside a tightly written script that's coherently structured and packs a thematic punch the way the Lego movie does, for example. No, it's not that, and had this movie been given some more structure, I think it could have been amazing. But as it is, I still love it, and the sheer bafflement it rises up in me is such an interesting, unique, pleasant feeling to have when watching the movie. Spy Kids feels like dipping into some endless early 2000s music video, where all the colours and the imagery are a bit odd and the sets feel deliberately false, and I love it. But let me know what you think. I'm prepared to accept this is probably a controversial opinion, but comment your thoughts, good or bad, like the video if you liked it, subscribe. Consider joining my Patreon as a free member to keep up with what videos I'm releasing, or as a paid member for extra benefits like bonus content or joining the Discord, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time.
And as ever, a special thank you goes to Flying Spider, Luke Core, Michael Gallagher, Ben Marie, Thafi, Chad Bramwell and Joshua C. Follier. Thank you.